So, of course, we're still in the deep depths of the offseason for the NFL, as the Lions off-season training camp doesn't start till near the end of the month. Tigers just hit the All-Star break, 3 games below 500 and playing 500 ball, as the Tigers are just looking to be just watchable enough just to get everybody through the tide to Lions football season. But of course, through all of that, though, we still got off-seasons that happen for the Pistons and the Red Wings, as both teams are fresh at the start of off-season. And since the off-season's kind of calmed down for the NBA and the NHL, especially with the NBA Summer League happening and the Olympics starting up in a couple weeks, we're going to take a look at the NBA and NHL off-seasons and see how the Pistons and Red Wings have fared so far in the off-season. If anyone's wondering, yes, this is indeed an Amon-Ra Black Lions jersey. I decided to pop this jersey on since the black jerseys are easily becoming the most popular jersey in the Lions fandom so far. So let's take a look at Pistons and Red Wings offseason. Starting off with the Pistons here. So the Pistons offseason, well, the Pistons have been a complete fucking mess. As a franchise, easily one of the worst fucking franchises in all of sports, and it's just a complete fucking mess. Mainly because Tom Gores has no fucking clue what the hell he's doing. And of course, they started the offseason off on the wrong foot by keeping Monty Williams and Troy Weaver, at least until the new president was hired on. And of course, the Pistons did hire a new president of basketball operations in Trajan Langdon, who was previously in the front office for the New Orleans Pelicans. So Trajan came in, and Trajan, he made a lot of claims and a lot of bold statements saying there's going to be a bold plan. AKA, he's trying to do his best Brad Holmes impersonation. And well, let's see what he does to start off with. As of course, for Trajan, he knows that first impressions are very important. And its first impressions was doing what should have been done in April after the season ended. As Trajan's first order of business was firing Troy Weaver and Monty Williams and cleaning house. Honestly, this just makes Tom Gores look even worse. Because it's like, what was the fucking point of keeping Weaver and Monty Williams around for 2 more months? And if the new guy you were going to hire was going to fire him anyway. Anyone with half a brain that you hired in was going to fire both of them. Honestly, both firings, they came about 2 months too late. Both of them should have happened in April after the season ended. Should have happened a long time ago, but at least Trajan is unfucking the problem that Tom Gores initially fucked up in the first place. Honestly, this just proves that Tom Gores doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Let me just reiterate what I said at the end of the Pistons season. Tom Gores, if you're not going to give a fuck about this team, then do everyone in Detroit a favor. Sell the fucking team to someone that actually will give a damn. And stop wasting everybody's fucking time and money, for Christ's sakes. At least Trajan made the right calls there. Monty Williams, with the Monty Williams thing, I'm not really a fan of firing a coach after 1 season. Especially with how much the Pistons paid him last offseason and made him the highest paid coach in the league. And to say that backfired horrifically is a massive understatement. But Monty didn't really do himself any favors. I guess the Pistons just wanted a clean start and a fresh slate. Because the question was going to be, who was really the problem, Monty or Troy Weaver? Pistons side, just get rid of both of them. And then we don't have to have that debate no more. Even though Tom Gores is still here. So, of course, I'm Trajan. He will be taking over all the GM duties for the Pistons. And in terms of the head coach, well, there weren't that many head coaching candidates left because the Pistons waited too goddamn long to clean house. If they actually cleaned house right at the start, they could have been right in the mix to get some good candidates. Instead, not the case, especially since a bunch of teams are blocking some of their candidates, telling some coaching candidates, don't go to Detroit. They're a dysfunctional shit show. Don't go here. In the end, one name ended up coming to the Pistons, as J.B. Bickerstaff was hired on to be the head coach. Hey, J.B. done some good things in Cleveland, helping turn the Cavaliers around, proving that the Cavaliers don't need fucking LeBron James to be relevant in the NBA now. He did a really good job turning Cleveland around, so maybe he could bring that same magic over to Detroit, maybe. He's even hiring Luke Watson as an assistant head coach, as Luke Watson is fresh off being fired after his last stint was being LeBron James' puppet in the Lakers. It's okay, Luke. You don't have to worry about LeBron here. LeBron can't hurt you in Detroit. It's safe here. You don't have to worry about being anybody's puppet here in Detroit. And of course, Trajan, he also went on and helped decide that he was going to help build around Cade Cunningham and do what should have been done, and this time do it right. As in the draft, they took the big man Ron Holland with the 5th overall pick. So yeah, again, the big man for the front of the court to help build around Cade Cunningham, something the Pistons needed. That's a great move there. And of course, cutting some of the players that were on this roster from the Weaver era out of here. Mainly the first move was sending Quentin Grimes away, as he was shipped off to Dallas for Tim Hardaway. And of course, James Wiseman, well, James Wiseman hasn't been able to live up to a 2nd overall pick status in Golden State, and he sure as hell wasn't living up to it in Detroit. So James Wiseman, you can fuck off to hell. And now we get to the free agent signings. That's for the free agent signings. It really wasn't a whole lot, since the Pistons are like I mentioned, the Pistons are the worst team in the league, and they're not a free agent destination by any means. Like, the only Detroit team right now that is a free agent destination would have to be the Lions. I mean, for fuck's sakes, they literally just had their best fucking season in 30 years. And we're a couple plays away from possibly making the NFC title game. Like, the Lions literally came 30 minutes away from being in the Super Bowl, for fuck's sakes. So, I mean, obviously the Lions are the best free agent destination for Detroit sports. But for the Pistons, they did get a couple depth pieces here to help fill out the roster. Mainly bringing in Malik Beasley from the Bucks on a 1-year, $6+ million deal. Re-signed Simone Fontecchio on a 2-year, $16 million deal with an AAV of $8 million a year. Claiming Paul Reed off waivers. And for the Pistons, big free agent signing in the offseason. Well, hey, remember that Tobias Harris guy the Pistons told to fuck off in that Blake Harris trade 6 years ago? Turns out he's good now. So the Pistons decided, let's get him again. 2 years, $52 million at an AAV of $26 million a year for Tobias Harris? That's a little steep for me. Oof. But I mean, that's probably the only way they can get anybody worth a damn to come to Detroit, is overpaying the shit out of them. Because no one's going to just come here willingly on their own free will. You're going to have to really persuade them. And of course, the big piece that needs to happen in the offseason involves Cade Cunningham. As Cade Cunningham, he's been the best player on this team, and he's been trying his best to carry the sad sack of a franchise around since he joined the league. So Cade Cunningham, he's also due his first big boy payday. And Trajan decided that he wants Cade Cunningham to stay for the long haul, and that Cade will not pull a Grant Hill. As Cade Cunningham staying around 5 more years on a $226 million rookie max extension and an AAV of $45.2 million a year. Okay, that's actually pretty reasonable. A little steep, though. About $1 million or $2 million a year steep, but hey, you know, he's easily the best player on the Pistons. He needs to be paid. And he's getting paid handsomely for it. I mean, I think we all know it's going to be a little bit steep based on some of the money we saw at the Lions with Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Penei Sewell getting in this offseason. But yeah, Cade Cunningham, he gets to stay around and be another big pillar to face in Detroit sports. And being the face of the Pistons franchise remains still. There are still some question marks about Jalen Duren and Jay Ivey, as both of them have been rumored in trade talks. As yeah, the Pistons are still going to be a pretty bad team. Like, even despite some of these moves, let's not kid ourselves, Pistons are still going to be a really bad team in 2024-2025. I think at bare minimum, maybe they could win 20 games at bare minimum. Maybe be at least 3rd or 4th. But in the end, it probably won't mean anything, and they'll get shafted in the draft lottery again. Probably this time they'll get shafted to the 7th or 8th pick in the draft lottery. But yeah, at least some solid moves. It's a step in the right direction. Like, the Pistons still got a lot of work to do to repair the damage that has been done with Troy Weaver and many other GMs from years past. But Trojan at least has made some solid moves, but, still a long ways to go. They're still going to be a pretty bad team. Now we shift our attention to the Red Wings, as of course the Yzer plan has another big offseason ahead of him, with Steve Yzerman having to make some more big decisions, as a lot of people are starting to grow impatient, especially considering that the Wings were pretty inconsistent last year, especially once Larkin went down when the team fell to shit, and the Wings fell out of the playoffs on the last day of the season due to a tiebreaker. So now the Wings know that they need to shore a lot of things up, that they're coming about 30 seconds away from making it back to the playoffs. As for Yzerman, he knows the biggest thing that needs to be addressed this offseason is the goaltending situation. I mean, there is the possibility of calling up a guy like Sebastian Costa or Trey Augustine, but there's one problem with that. Both of them are nowhere near ready to come up to the big times. I mean, there was some top possibility about possibly getting John Gibson from the Anaheim Ducks, but the asking price is a little too steep for Steve Yzerman's liking. So there's no chance there. In the end, Steve Yzerman settled for best short-term options until Costa and Augustine are ready to go. Upgrading the depth by bringing in Cam Talbot on a 2-year, $5 million deal on an AAV of $2.5 million a year, luring him away from the LA Kings. And then bringing in Jack Campbell from the Oilers on a 1-year, $775,000 league minimum. Oh, whoopee. There's now 2 Jack Campbells in Detroit. One plays for the Lions, and now one plays for the Red Wings. Also, now make that 3 Campbells now in Detroit as well, if we include Detroit Lions head coach Dan Campbell. I think Detroit can handle 3 fucking Campbells. I mean, we already handle fucking 2 on the Lions, for Christ's sakes, and it's working pretty well. I think we can handle 3 in Detroit. Especially 2 Jack Campbells. All I say is I hope to God everybody can tell the difference between the football one and the hockey one. If not, then we're really going to have a fucking problem here. But Cam Talbot easily going to be looking to be the number 1 goalie for the Wings, especially with the money he got. And how great he's played with the Kings. Definitely an upgrade over the Wings' consistent goaltending of Philly Hustle, James Reimer, and Alex Lyon. So yeah, that's definitely an upgrade there. And Jack Campbell, he kind of fell off with the Oilers, but I think he can rebound and be an upgrade over what we've had previously. Of course, there are some other big news to come out here. Of course, the big theme was about Patrick Kane. Would Patrick Kane come back to Detroit, or would he go to the Rangers to finish to get some unfinished business with New York? As this will be the first offseason in a long time that Patrick Kane would be healthy for. After last offseason, he had hip surgery following the Rangers playoff run that year prior. In the end, Patrick Kane has made his choice, and he is going to stay in Detroit for another year. 1-year, $4 million extension. So Patrick Kane still gets to play with his pet kitty, Alex the Brincat, from Chicago. Now in Detroit. And of course, up for the Wings, they were trying to get some wing help. Mainly, the big piece the Wings obviously were targeting was Steve Stamkos from the Lightning, as he became a free agent. A lot of things pointed to Detroit possibly being the front runner. Looked like a perfect fit. And yes, Steve Stamkos, he was a perfect fit to go right to Nashville to play for the Predators. Oof, the Wings really got outbid by Nashville for Stamkos. In the end, the Wings decided to go to Plan B. As with Florida, there was questions about what would happen with Vladimir Tarasenko, because the Florida Panthers are busy trying to pay some of their players with the Stanley Cup luxury tax, as that is the cost of winning a cup, is paying a lot of the talent on the roster, aka the cup tax. In the end, they could not find a cap to pay Tarasenko. So Tarasenko became a cap casualty for the Florida Panthers in the cap cut, in the cup tax. As Tarasenko is a free agent, but hey, the Wings, they've had some pretty good history with Russian players on the squad, from names like Pavel Datsyuk to Igor Larionov, Sergei Fedorov, and Vladimir Kostanetov, to name a few. With Kostanetov, we've had pretty good history with players named Vladimir. So for the Wings, let's try it again with Vladimir Tarasenko. 2 years, $9.5 million at an AAV of $4.75 million a year. So bringing Brandon Vladimir Tarasenko to shore up the front six, which that is actually a pretty good move here. You know, Tarasenko fresh off a cup win in Florida, and Tarasenko gets to reunite with Patrick Kane, dating back to that 1 year both of them were on the New York Rangers. And speaking of the Rangers, the Waynes were in talk with the Rangers about acquiring the New York Rangers captain Jacob Trouba. As Jacob Trouba was a defenseman, a Michigan-born defenseman, played for the University of Michigan, and he fit everything the Waynes needed for a physical defenseman to possibly complement Mo Seider. It looked like a great move. The Waynes are going to get Trouba. Actually, scratch that, the Waynes are not getting Trouba. Jacob Trouba nixed the trade, because apparently the Red Wings are on Jacob Trouba's no-trade clause. Fuck. Plus, Jacob Trouba's wife, residency with New York Medical Hospital staff, that residency doesn't expire until next offseason. That's probably why Jacob Trouba nixed it. Fuck. Maybe next offseason. Maybe next offseason we can get Trouba. So yeah, the Waynes still got a question about defensemen. There's been possibilities about possibly going to get Tyson Barrie, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But with the way the Waynes roster's looking like, and also there still have been no talks about extensions yet from Mo Seider and Lucas Raymond. They were sent qualifying offers, but we'll have to wait and see what happens there. As yet, since both Seider and Raymond are both due their first big boy extensions. Good news is the Waynes still have them for now since they're both restricted free agents. But in the end, with the way the Waynes roster shaped up this offseason, I think we're going to see a lot of young guys coming on the roster in 2024-2025. I think a lot of Steve Yzerman's draft picks are going to start finally coming on the roster. Definitely, I think Simon Edvinsson 100% will be on the roster full-time. I think there's a chance Marco Kasper could be on the roster. And maybe some other defensive prospects too, since Shane Gostisbehere is gone, along with David Perron. You know, there's even been talks about possibly Nate Danielson being on the roster in 2024-2025. Like, I kind of would be against Danielson because I think they'd be rushing him up a little too quickly. I think he needs another year in AHL. I think he needs a year in AHL before coming up to Wayne's main roster. But hey, you know, if they feel he's ready to go, it's like, okay, let's see what the kid's got in the NHL. And I think a lot of other players that we possibly could see coming on the Waynes, maybe possibly Jonathan Bergeron as well. He was in the pipeline too. You know, going to be definitely an interesting training camp to see which young guys make the roster and who will be sent to Grand Rapids and to junior hockey and all that. Of course, Nygaard is not going to be on the roster, since Nygaard's already signed up to be playing in Sweden next year. But Michael Nygaard, he will be playing with Axel Sandis-Pellikka in Sweden next year. So yeah, at least you'll get some connection with him, time with him there. But yeah, in terms of the Waynes offseason, it's going to be really tough to gauge what the Waynes are going to be next year. I kind of feel like it's going to be the same as last year. Maybe a little more consistent if Larkin can stay healthy. Because the Waynes were a pretty solid team last year when Dylan Larkin was healthy. Just mainly the Waynes fell to shit both times that Dylan Larkin went down. You know, hopefully the goaltending upgrades we make can make a difference. You know, bring some young guys in. Like the young guys I say that should be on the roster, I'm not saying they're gonna turn the team around. I just want to see what we got in them. Because we could talk about potential with some of the players Steve Yzerman's brought in all we want. At the end of the damn day, it doesn't fucking mean anything until we see them on the ice and see what the fuck they can actually do. But yeah, that's Red Wings and Pistons all season. The Pistons, they're still going to be a pretty bad team. And for the Waynes, it's going to be tough to gauge what they're going to be. It really depends on a lot of things, you know. Can the young guys be exactly as advertised? Can Dylan Larkin stay healthy? Can the goaltending not become a complete fucking shit pile for once? A lot of questions to be decided. And there's also questions. Does Derek Lalonde also make it through the entire season? Since it was pretty surprising that Lalonde made it back, was brought back for another year. But I imagine that Lalonde was set straight by Steve Yzerman at the end of season press conference, because he sounded a lot different compared to some of the stuff he was saying throughout the year. Like, I think Derek alone got his ass chewed out by Yzerman. And I feel like for Malone, I think his job security in Detroit, it really depends on if the Waynes get off to a hot start or not. Because I feel like if the Waynes get off to a slow start this year, I think Malone could be one of the first head coaches to be fired this season. I mean, we've seen in years past that usually firing a head coach can be a good thing for some teams to turn around. I mean, just look at the Edmonton Oilers last year. The Edmonton Oilers were a bad team to start the year. They fired their head coach, brought in Connor McDavid's coach from the Erie Otters to be the head coach for the Oilers. And the Oilers turned it right around. Not only did they turn it around, they made it all the way to the Cup Finals and came one game short of completing one of the greatest comebacks in Stanley Cup Final history in 70 years. Like 70, 80 years. Like, came one game short of the Cup. You know, sometimes a head coach firing could be what's needed to turn a team around. If you get the right coach in the right place at the right time. You know, a lot of questions, but there's one thing I can say, though. For the Waynes, one positive, you're still the second best team in Detroit behind the Lions right now. Because the Tigers are pretty mediocre as all hell. Like if the Tigers actually turn it around and Chris Ilitch stops being a fucking cheap ass, then maybe the fucking Tigers become the second best team in Detroit. Time will tell there. But yeah, that's Red Wings and Pistons offseason. Not really a whole lot of flashing moves to talk about. You know, just pretty quiet, and yeah. Anyway, All-Star break's happening for the Tigers, so not a whole lot for Detroit sports right now. I mean, the one positive is only a couple months left until Lions football season begins, and the Lions can begin that road to the Super Bowl. Anyway, that's it. I'm out of here. Bye.